AITA? For suggesting that my wife switched to formula so I could have more time with our son? Hey y'all. Read carefully before giving judgment. So my wife, F24, and I, M27, had our son 3 months ago. Luckily, as new parents, we've had less issues compared to others in our family, but what really created an issue was the fact that my wife gets way more bonding time with my son than I do. She breastfeeds and doesn't let me come anywhere near her while she's doing it, claiming she was already in pain and I was making her stressed out with my behavior. She'd promised to let me have my bonding time once she's done, but she takes a long time feeding in. Then the baby goes to sleep, so I get pretty much, almost, no time to bond with him. It all came to head for me last night after my wife told me to leave the room while she was feeding our son 'cause I was bothering her and making her feel stressed out with my judgmental comments, but I was just making sure she was feeding our son properly since she's dealing with stress and possible PPD, and so I had to. Not under doctor's recommendation though, but following my mom's advice. Be present in every feeding session to make sure nothing goes wrong and, like I said before, maybe get a chance to bond with my son, but it didn't end well and I refused to leave the room. She tried to unload on me about how unsupportive and difficult I was being, but I told her she was wrong to exclude me and take away my attempt at bonding with my son, and that it's only fair that I get to have equal time she has with him, and suggested that she switch to formula so she has no way of keeping me excluded, and again so I could get 50% of the time she has with him. She called me unreasonable and explained that even though I'm the parent too, she as a mother is essentially what our son needs and relies on, so her role is more important and she gets more time than I do simply because she's the mother. Then she explained that my request was ridiculous because she is blessed to have almost no issues with BF, and switching to formula was absolutely uncalled for and cannot be afforded right now, but I disagreed and argued that she left me no choice and that she needs to respect whatever decision I make regarding our son, even if she doesn't like it and doesn't necessarily agree with it. But she argued back, saying I'm delusional to think she'll just switch to formula to fix my hurt feces, and even accused me of making this request so mom could meddle in and start feeding our son formula and have sleepovers, since she was against her breastfeeding from the start due to how weak she was before. This really had me kind of lose my cool NGL. I told her that couldn't be further from the truth. Matter fact, I strongly believe her refusal to consider switching to formula is mainly to spite mom, not because she thinks my request was unreasonable. Long story short, we kept going back and forth on this argument and she told me to drop it, but I refused because in my opinion she's being selfish by how she's treating me as the other parent. I had to. Not under doctor's recommendation though, but following my mom's advice. Be present in every feeding session. WTF? That she needs to respect whatever decision I make regarding our son, even if she doesn't like it and doesn't necessarily agree with. WTF? I strongly believe her refusal to consider switching to formula is mainly to spite mom. WTF? Yeah. YTA. YTA. As you said, the only reason why she doesn't want you there while breastfeeding is because you're criticizing her during breastfeeding, despite knowing it contributes to stress and that she was already stressed in the first place. Why exactly do you think adding more stress during breastfeeding is a good thing for her or your child? If you just chose to be supportive and quiet instead of judgmental, there would be no issue. YTA. I was just making sure she was feeding our son properly. Yes. I can see why she doesn't want you in the room when she's breastfeeding. This might come as a surprise to you. But as a woman breastfeeding, she knows more about how this works than you do. Stop being a nuisance. If you honestly believe your wife is breastfeeding solely to spite your mother, ask yourself A. What has happened between her and your mother that would result in this, and B. Why you married someone you have such a low opinion of. Read a damn book. Educate yourself on breastfeeding and weaning. It's delusional to think you can just swap to formula, and at 3 months some medical professionals would advise against this. She's absolutely right. This is all about you, not what's best for the baby. YTA. You're making this all about you. Just so you know, my dad and his father had an extremely close and loving relationship. But my dad did not first see his dad until he was 2 years old. Why? My grandpa was off fighting in the Pacific, World War II. Edit. And I may add, as a father of 4 myself, the first 6 months, babies just sleep, eat, and poop. Trust me, there will be plenty of bonding time for you. YTA. I disagreed and argued that she left me no choice and that she needs to respect whatever decision I make regarding our son, even if she doesn't like it. Would be a horrible thing to say if you had excellent critical thinking skills and weren't acting selfish. You have really bad critical thinking skills, and your actions are some of the most selfish I've ever seen on this sub. You and your mother are the biggest a-holes I've seen around here for a while. First and foremost, leave your poor wife alone. Secondly, stop taking medical advice from your mother. Thirdly, I see so many red flags here. I literally feel sorry for your wife and your child. The first 3 months of an infant's life are referred to as the 4th trimester. You will have plenty of bonding time with your son. And you're such a massive for saying, respect any decision I make concerning my son, to your wife, that if I would have been in her shoes, I would leave you and take the baby with me. YTA. And an entire parade of red flags. Your son isn't just eating and sleeping at 3 months, and your wife is not a competitor in your relationship. She's a human being doing a really difficult job for your baby, and you're being controlling so your mom can get what she wants. YTA. I got anxiety for your wife just reading this. Breastfeeding isn't easy. Even when it is. Your mother suggesting you hover over your wife as your child's personal bodyguard is sending messages to your wife that you do not trust her ability to care for your child or keep him alive. Plus, stress can literally tank your wife's milk supply. I'm currently breastfeeding my 2nd son, and it sucks for my husband. But your wife is right. In this stage of your son's life, he needs her more. They're still in the 4th trimester, where your son literally still thinks he's a part of your wife. Your son doesn't yet understand the concept that Junior is his own person. Your mom is giving you poor advice, and you're doubling down on that poor advice. It also sounds like you have PPD or PPA yourself. Is your son's pediatrician having both of you fill out the depression and anxiety questionnaires when you take him to his appointments? If not, please ask for one for yourself or go see your doctor. PPD, PPA can affect dads too and is often undiagnosed. Your son is 3 months old. You have a lifetime to bind with him. Try getting him up from his naps, changing his diapers. Help your wife in any way possible. Then, when your son is no longer a potato and is interacting more, you'll have all the time in the world. And that time is coming up fast. Right now, you're driving your wife away by being overbearing. Unless you are truly worried your wife is going to purposefully starve your child or murder him, leave her be to breastfeed. If you are truly concerned, You need to bring those concerns to the doctors to get her help. Feeding your son is not the only way to bond with him. My husband loved holding him for naps when he was little. Plus, he then got to sit there for 2 hours and not do housework. You need to ignore your mother and leave your wife alone while she breastfeed. It's stressful. Making sure baby gets and stays latched at this age is stressful. If your son is peeing and pooping normally, your wife if feeding him properly and enough. TL. Dr. YTA. Your son thinks he is literally part of your wife. If he's peeing and pooping normally, he's getting enough, so please stop hovering over your wife, making her more anxious. Get yourself seen for possible PPD, PPA. Bond with him in a month or 2. But work on some bonding now by changing diapers and maybe holding him for naps. Yes. YTA. Why are you involving your mother in this situation? Her requests and suggestions have no place here. If you want to bond with your son, do it at a different time. I think it's great you want to bond with baby. But it sounds like you're being a little controlling, supervising your wife while she's feeding. You shouldn't involve your mom. You are her family. But this is your family now. I think YTA for suggesting formula for baby just so you can get some time in. It's not what's best for the baby, and that should be your only concern. You and your mom are completely assholes and you are thinking only of yourself. Breastfeeding is best for your child. YTA, and I pity your poor wife. Saddled with someone who has no shame in prioritizing himself over a newborn. YTA. Yes. Fed is best. But when there are no problems with breastfeeding, switching to formula is a bad idea. Switching to formula just to make sure your feelings don't get hurt? There is not one sentence in the garbage you wrote that makes you look like a decent person. It's a tiny little human that just exited a nice cozy space into a huge world. And has a lot of growing today. That little human's world exists solely of eating, sleeping, passing waste, and trying to work out what the heck is going on around them. You have time to bond later. Oh. And stop supervising your wife like she's a prisoner. Cut the apron strings with your mother. That is some top-bit toxic mill behavior. And you're enabling it. YTA. Are you seriously micromanaging her breastfeeding and then wondering why she's stressed and doesn't want you in the room? YTA. I can't even believe what I'm reading. YTA, and so is your mom. There are so many red flags in your post. 1. Your wife isn't taking too long to feed your child. That is how long your newborn child takes to feel full. It's entirely dependent on how long the child takes. Your wife has nearly no control. 2. You are glossing over a really important aspect, that your wife is able to breastfeed without any major issues. That can be rare. I am a firm believer that fed is best. But you always start with breast. It has everything your child needs for proper development without having to spend any money. Formula can be expensive. Why add that to your budget simply because you want more time? 3. Your mother does not belong in this relationship. This is a partnership between you and your wife. It sounds like you're allowing your mom more access than she is entitled to. Your mother is a mother, but that doesn't mean that how she raised a child is how you and your wife will raise a child. 4. Your wife had a baby. Your first sentence says my wife and I. Your wife had a baby. You were in the room, but you did not birth a human being. The fact that you make it a we action annoys the shit out of me. 5. You do not need to be in the room every time your wife feeds the baby. You know how you can bond? Change their diaper. Help put them to sleep. Hold them when they are awake. My sister-in-law just had a baby last summer. I stayed with them during the first couple of weeks after she gave birth and I felt like I bonded quite fine with my nephew. I did everything household related while my brother and his wife did everything baby related. I still got to hold and bond with my nephew a dozen times a day. And that's after my brother and his wife did too. Feeding is not the only time to bond. 6. Your wife may have PPD, but that's not for you or your controlling mother to decide. And if she does, you may likely be a heavily contributing factor. I suggest you see a counselor. Seriously. Because this post sounds like you may be headed for divorce if you don't STFU and leave your wife alone while she's doing what the universe intended for all new mothers to do. Good luck. You clearly need it. I like how it started reasonable and then as soon as you hit, my mom said, rant mode activated. Your wife is pretty much spot on. You sound overbearing and uncomfortable to be around while she is feeding, adding stress to an already stressful situation. To change the baby's entire diet to give you more time is absurd, and would likely be against most doctors' recommendations if the breastfeeding is going well. Just calm down. Back off. Do your bonding in the short window when they aren't feeding or sleeping. And remember that this time passes quickly and you'll have more waking, bonding time as they get a little bit older. YTA. YTA. You should be a parent and not a second child. All I read here is, me, my mom. I need to be present at every feeding to make sure my fully adult and capable wife does nothing wrong. But she is still not good enough and I demand this and I deserve this and I. YTA. Go ask your mommy if you can bond with her. YTA. You want to deprive your son of the best nutrition that is full of disease-fighting antibodies. Unlike formula. During a plodge, you stress your wife to the point of tears by being controlling and critical of something you can never ever be an expert on or do yourself. You sit over her shoulder at every feed to make sure she is doing it right. How the fuck would a man with no tits know what correct breastfeeding looks like? You aren't a woman. You will never ever understand what it is like to breastfeed. You will never be an expert here. Leave your wife alone. Only she knows her body best. Only AHE knows her breasts and how her baby feeds on THM. No, you have no idea. Not your body. You are redicious. Fair is not important here. Best interests of the baby is important. And until formula can prevent and cure disease like breast milk, her tits are superior in every way. You can't just abruptly change a baby's diet like that either. Formula can cause breastfed babies stomach pain and upset. You want to hurt your son and make him sick for your ego? And your mother has no entitlement to a baby that does not belong to her. She makes 0 decisions and 3 months is way too young to be away from mom. Your wife doesn't need a babysitter. She needs to be left alone with her baby so she can do what nature intended her to do for billions of years. Feed her baby with her body and be a mother. Leave her alone. She's right. You are dead wrong and selfish. You don't care about your kid at all while she wants the very best for him. You put yourself first, not your kid. Your feelings are apparently more important than his health and development. A selfish father is a bad father. Your wife is sacrificing her body, her sleep, her mental health, her physical pain to make sure your kid has the best start in life. And you want to bitch and complain? YTA. JFC dude. I'd be looking for a divorce lawyer if I was her.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.